What is an adjective? First of all, before I introduce what adjectives are, depending on how you look at adjectives, you need to know that you might come across languages that do not have adjective as such. However, overall, adjective is one of the three major word classes that you would encounter in any given language, the other two being noun and verb. You can define adjectives at different levels of linguistics or language organization, in terms of morphosyntax, semantics, or in terms of syntactic usage. In other words, if you want to simplify this, you can define adjective semantically in terms of meaning, but you could also define them in terms of their formal attributes or provide a formal definition of what adjectives are. In any case, an adjective is a category in grammar that refers to a word class that specifies the attributes of nouns. Adjectives are modifiers of nouns. Keep in mind, though, that if you look at the form of an adjective, in many languages, and in one of my early videos I gave examples of this in Persian and Turkish, you would see that an adjective could modify a verb, in which case it functions as an adverb. But the way we understand adjectives is that they modify nouns. Once an adjective modifies a verb, we categorize it or we understand it as an adverb. Even in English, like in colloquial English, this might happen. You can say you speak English well in colloquial English or certain slang forms. You might hear, oh, you speak English real good, In that sense, good is modifying speak and functioning as an adverb, which is not the case in standard English, but that's an example of how an adjective can modify a verb. Let's simplify things and go back to English. This would be an example of the approach you could have to understanding adjective in English. It may or may not be 100% applicable to your first language. An adjective can occur within a noun phrase in an attributive function. For example, in the phrase, the big guy, you have a noun phrase. The noun phrase is the big guy. The adjective is big. It's functioning as an attribute of the noun guy. Therefore, you can say it's occurring within a noun phrase in an attributive function. An adjective can occur after the verb or in a predicative position. That guy is big. Here, it's occurring post-verbally in a predicative position. And here we're not having a phrase, we have a full-on sentence. An adjective itself can be modified by an intensifier. For example, the very big guy. We had the big guy, now we have the very big guys. The very here is an intensifier that modifies the adjective, big. An adjective can be used comparatively in comparative form or superlatively in a superlative form. The comparative and superlative forms can be created by inflection, for example, the bigger guy, the biggest guy, or periphrastically by adding a word before the adjective. For example, interesting, more interesting, most interesting. These are the four ways with which you can identify adjectives in English. Any given adjective can satisfy at least one of the above criteria, one of the above four criteria, and perhaps all of them. But all adjectives do not fulfill all of the four criteria. For example, you can say it is a major question, which is a sentence in which an adjective is used in a noun phrase in an attributive function, but you cannot say the question is major. You cannot use it in a predicative function. Therefore, it fulfills one of the criteria, but not the other. There are different approaches to the understanding and definition of adjectives. Some grammar books define adjective very broadly, or some other grammars define it with a very narrow definition. In a broad approach, anything between the determiner and the noun in a phrase like the vicar's fine old English garden chair may be considered an adjective. While many linguists prefer to restrict the definition of adjective in this phrase only to the items that satisfy most or all of the four criteria, calling the other items adjective-like or adjectival. You also need to know that an adjective can be the head of an adjective phrase, also known as adjectival phrase, AP, or adjp. For example, very important in the sentence, that's very important, is an adjective phrase, and the head of the adjective phrase is the word important. Very is an intensifier that modifies the adjective, and together, very and important constitute an adjectival phrase or adjective phrase. Semantically speaking, you can see that even some types of clause can be recognized to have an adjectival function. For example, in the sentence, he's the man I saw, the clause I saw functions like an adjective for the word man. He's the man I saw. He's the man seen by me. He's the seen by me man. But here you are, adjectives. Stay tuned for our next video. That will be a follow-up on adjectives, but focusing on different kinds of adjectives.